For anyone that was actually paying attention to all of the backlash surrounding Star Wars Outlaws, you probably had a pretty good idea that the sales for this game were going to disappoint. But we saw the mainstream media continue to run cover. They said, oh, it's a Star Wars game. It's a Ubisoft game. I'm sure it's still going to sell a lot of copies despite all of these gamers complaining about it. Well, when you have ratioed trailers, when you have horrific clips out there on launch of the game being completely and totally broken, these are really big problems from a PR perspective, from a technical perspective, and just the fact that anything related to Disney Star Wars these days, you're gonna have a lot of people paying attention, potentially criticizing you. Well, now we're starting to learn just what a big disaster this was. We did see shares of Ubisoft tank in the aftermath of Star Wars Outlaws after they lowered their sales expectations for the game. But even those lowered sales expectations probably don't match up to what we're seeing now. And despite Ubisoft saying, you know what, gamers, they're just way too hard on us these days. They expect extraordinary experiences instead of just good old solid games. Well, I don't even think you delivered a solid game with Star Wars Outlaws, and these sales numbers might reflect that. Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies in the month since it launched. Yes, that's right. We're not talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 million. We're talking about 1 million in a month. Star Wars Outlaws was plagued with issues at launch, some of which led Ubisoft to make drastic tweaks. It wasn't well received by the general market, and gamers worldwide have been giving it pretty low scores. It comes as no surprise to learn that in an entire month on the shelves, Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies. It's not as many sales as Ubisoft expected, which explains the recent comments about the game's performance proving softer than expected. It's also partly why Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed considerably all the way back to February of 2025. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide. And to put that in some type of context or perspective, certainly in the first couple months of release, that's when you expect the bulk of your sales to happen, right? At least the bulk of your sales at top price. Maybe later on down the road, supremely discount, who knows what they might end up selling. But when you look at Ubisoft games in the past, let's take the most recent Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was not one of the bigger entries in the franchise. That's sold about 5 million in 3 months. What about a recent new franchise Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order, 5 years ago? In around 2.5 months, they'd sold 8 million copies of Jedi Fallen Order. And in the first month, we are talking about just barely cracking 1 million for Star Wars Outlaws. When you look at the budget that this game had, and including the marketing budget, which was rumored to be one of the biggest for any Ubisoft game we've ever seen. Ubisoft, Lucasfilm, Star Wars Outlaws. No one goes out and buys it. You'd have to expect around 200 million plus just to make the game. And then who knows what that insane marketing budget was on top of that. This is once again another huge, controversial disaster for both Star Wars and for Ubisoft. And it should also tell you something. All the people that say, oh, well, just because this trailer got completely and totally ratioed, that doesn't mean anything. Those are just some haters online. That won't affect things. Yes, it will. When we see these things happen, when you see a massive wave of backlash from the general audience, I'm not talking about a couple tweets that go viral. I'm talking about more tangible things like a trailer that's viewed millions and millions and millions of times that gets ratioed to hell. That's an indication that the general public does not feel very good about your product. And you can try to spin that however you want, but when push comes to shove and these things actually get released, we see, oh, wait, it looks like there wasn't as much of a demand as we thought. We could have told you that months and months and months ago. In the lead up to this release, Ubisoft didn't want to listen, and now they have massive problems. Assassin's Creed Shadows, probably going to be a huge disaster for them as well. You have the CEO coming out and making statements, we promise we don't care about identity politics. That's just what you guys think we care about. You have the Ubisoft board, and you have investors clamoring for change and worried, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Well, tack up another loss for Ubisoft, of which they've had a lot of lately. What do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.